Hi guys, hope you're all doing well. So welcome to this week's episode of Brandless Beauty. And the tutorial today is going to be how to get a flawless full coverage base for oily skin. So really quickly, to talk about my skin, I have very oily skin. It can be like a whisper of dry around my nose sometimes, but other than that, it's just straight oil. I'm oily from forehead to chin, cheek to cheek, otherwise known as your T-zone. I am oily. It's ridiculous. Pretty much every foundation I use, like, some oil's gonna break through. That's just what happens. But I have found a way to really minimize that and add to the longevity of my makeup, because oil can break down your makeup. In terms of what I like in a foundation or in my base, 95% of the time, full coverage, matte, and flawless. I always talk about good skin and good makeup. There's makeup, excuse me, there's foundations and makeup that make your skin look like good skin, like, dang, her skin's beautiful. Is she wearing makeup? Her skin's flawless. And then there's foundations that's like, wow, her makeup looks great. And I am in that category 95% of the time. Like, I don't care. Like, if you know I'm wearing makeup, just make sure it looks good. So I'm going to show you how to get that based on my skin problems. If you have skin like me, I do have darker circles. I did do this eye look. This was a dramatic halo eye that I showed you how to do on last week's Brandless Beauty. But anyway, I have darker circles under here because life is rough. I have some spots, hyperpigmentation a little smidge. So yeah, the first thing that I do is I treat my skin. Great skin starts with great skincare. You guys know this. So I apply your moisturizer, your skincare routine. I'm not a dermatologist, but the things that I use a face oil as well as, like, washing my face, moisturizing, all that. But I'll use a face oil as well as a serum. I will say try to make sure as many of your products as oil free as possible. And if you are applying oils to your face, like, you're in control of the oils, and there aren't hidden oils in a lot of products, so sometimes that can add to the oil. Anyway, next thing I'm going to do, which is something I don't do all the time, but we're going for flawless, and like you're giving your skin every bit of help it can get, and that's color correction. Everyone doesn't need color correction, but what color correction is using shades that are opposite each other on the color wheel to cancel each other out on your skin. So for an example, red is opposite green on the color wheel. If you are a lighter skin and you have a lot of redness, a green color corrector will cancel that out and help those spots disappear. Alright, so I have, my darker circles are a little bit purplish looking, and across the color wheel from purple is orange. Peachy orange-ish, you know, you get to be splitting hairs. Something that looks like this. I'm going to go ahead and use this and dab that on the areas that I want to color correct. We have right here, because mama needs it. Okay, don't worry, it'll disappear. Don't worry. This. Okay. And this darker area here. Some of my foundations do cover the spots on my cheeks, but color correction, in my opinion, gives a more even, like, because it's sitting underneath of the foundation, it gives a more even look. So I'm going to use a sponge. You can blend this out with a brush, blend it out with your fingers. You can blend it out with whatever. I'm going to use a sponge. Now it's not going to disappear all the way. Your color correction, it's still going to look a little bit peach, a little bit whatever color you're correcting with. But don't worry. Okay, so remember we're going for flawless full coverage. Now, I want to take a note. I want to take time to note something. There are two things that I'll do to combat this, like my darker areas underneath of my foundation. Color correct and or conceal. So instead of color correction, you can put your concealer on under your foundation, and I've done that before. I've done a video on it. That'll work as well. However, I don't do both because it's like 2 cream products under the foundation. So if you're not comfortable with color correcting, it's just not your thing, just use your concealer first to even out your skin tone before your foundation. Whichever one that you do first, this next step that we're about to do, I recommend, whether you're putting it over color correction or you're putting it over concealer. And this is if you have oily skin. Powder. Okay, so this is, again, this extra step in helping that oil, helping your face stay matte, helping it last longer, helping it look more flawless. Once you put on your color correction or your concealer, or none, you can do this without that. I like to powder my face before foundation. Again, I'm giving it the best flawless fighting chance. So, what type of powder do I use? Some people I've seen use just a translucent powder. It's like a translucent setting powder, whatever you have. They'll use that to set their concealer, to set their color correction, or just to set their primer, if you will, to put on as a layer under foundation. However, in my opinion, I like to use, I gotta stop saying in my opinion, this is all my opinion. I like to use a powder that specializes in staying matte. Like, because that's the point of me putting this powder on, is so I can stay matte. And yes, powders by default tend to be matte, but I'm gonna go ahead and dip into a little bit of my mattifying powders. It's a loose powder. You can use a pressed powder. You can use a light powder foundation. It's up to you. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna set the color correction, but I'm also gonna just powder my T-zone area and all of that. Do I recommend a translucent powder for this? I've actually, like a white sheer, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if I've ever used one to do this, to know if the foundation would cover up any flashback that powder might have otherwise presented. I don't know. Anyway, I'm packing it on, pressing it into my skin, into my nose, into my chin, into my forehead where I get oily. So now I have that extra layer of protection. I look really pink and peach. That's okay. All right, and now we're ready. We are so ready for our foundation. So foundation, you guys watch my channel. I talked about my best of 2018 foundations. You know my favorites. This is where you pick your favorite foundation. Your favorite foundation. I have oily skin. I like to pick a matte foundation. If I'm going to add glow or dew to my face, I want to be in charge of it, in control of how much it is. So I tend to stay away from those dewy foundations. Although I'm going to try a couple in 2019. But you see what I'm saying. So I'm going to use my matte full coverage, something that you know is full coverage, foundation. And I'm using the butt of my sponge. I'm using the same sponge. How much foundation you use is up to you. I can be known to overdo it. So dot it on your face, and you're going to take your beauty blender, and your beauty blender, it doesn't have to be a beauty blender. This is Brandless, people. Okay. And blend your foundation in. But I think beauty blender has become like Q-tips. It's just become a everyday noun, even though it's the name of a product. Like, we don't call, like, I don't remember the last time I bought name brand Q-tips, but I just call all of them Q-tips when they're really like cotton swabs. I'm gonna shut up and put my foundation on. Don't forget to put foundation on your ears if you don't have a million earrings like me. But that foundation is full coverage, honey. Full coverage. There's no dark circle in sight. If I look a little red on camera, I apologize. I've been fighting with my undertone lately. I've been fighting with it. But I never trip if it's a little, like my undertone's a little bit off, or like my shade's a little bit light, it's winter, it's a little bit dark. Because this foundation is never the last step in the face. Like, I'm not just going on to blush and highlight right now. I can't. The next thing I'll do is concealer in a lighter shade to highlight the skin. Does that make sense? Two reasons I do this. One, I just think it looks gorgeous on anyone. But when you do such full coverage and such matte foundation, you have to remember now your face looks pretty flat, so you want to add some dimension back into it, and that's with highlighting and contouring the parts of your face. So in order to highlight those areas, basically you want to brighten those areas that would stand out on your face, and then you would add shadows to things that you want to kind of fall back a little bit on. So if you want your face to look a little bit more sculpted and things like that, you'll put some shadows in to make your cheekbones more sculpted, brighten that under eye area, brighten down the center of the face so they can stand out, so your face looks a little bit more three-dimensional, because it does kind of look flat and washed out. But we need all those layers. We don't need them, but you know what I mean. We're getting there. We're getting to the base. We're getting there. So I never cream contour, so I'm not going to do it now. I know how, and I think it looks beautiful, but I don't have the patience. But if you're going to cream contour, this is the step where you would apply your cream contour. But I do highlight with concealer. So I'm going to go ahead and take a concealer. So it's probably like 4 shades lighter than my skin tone. You do not have to go this light. You should go probably 1 to 2 shades lighter than your skin tone, but we're extra on this channel, and I'm okay with it. You don't even have to do the whole triangle sweep thing, but again, just letting you know. I'm going to go down the nose. Your concealer should also be matte or just like natural finish. It shouldn't be something too dewy or glowy because I like to control the glow again. Because if you're going to get oily, you need to know that you're shiny because of your oil, not because of the type of concealer you use or what have you. I just feel like it's just easier to have control over your face if you do it that way. Something I want to talk about, baking. I'm not going to bake because baking, in my opinion, does nothing to add to the longevity or the mattness of your overall face. It sets that concealer really well. It'll help brighten. It will, but it doesn't add to the longevity. Like, I guess it adds to the longevity of your concealer, but it's not something that I think, like, if you cut out baking and just set your concealers and stuff regularly, I think you'll still be just fine. So your favorite powder, your translucent powder, a light yellow base powder is like one I'm going to use, is what you should set your concealer with at this point in time, because that's going to give you, again, it's going to set the concealer and give you added dimension as well and keep everything from creasing. So this looks like the shade, this is the shade of the powder that I'm going to set my concealer under my eyes with. Okay. Again, staying matte. Do not add a powder with glow. Do not add a powder with glitter or sparkle or... No. Okay. Now, we're getting there. Isn't it looking pretty good? We're getting there. You're going to take one more powder. This is one more powder. And you are going to set the rest of that foundation. Again, we can't cut corners when you're hella oily. You just can't cut corners. We're going to take our brush, our powder brush, not a lot, and I'm going to go ahead and buff the powder into my skin. I don't have to buff over the under eye area. If you, let's say you went too bright or something, yeah, you can do that. But I like to stay in the areas that I did not set. I'll dust it lightly, but I'm really buffing on the other parts of my face. That make any sense? So I'll go over that area. And I From experience, I realized that this works better and lasts longer if I use the same powder, almost like a sandwich. So use the same powder under my foundation as I do over my foundation. I don't know, it just works the best in my opinion. Maybe they don't clash well. Some powders may not clash well with others. Whatever. All right. And there's your base. And I'm going to contour. Because I'm going to finish off that sculpting of the face. I brightened. Now I'm going to sculpt a little bit. Grab your favorite contour shade. Contour should be cool. Contour should always be cool. Okay? Because shadows are cool. Cool tone, not cool as in popular. Like, although, I mean, shadows are alright, I guess. Okay. Around the forehead. And so those are the places that I contour. So I contour sides of the cheeks and around the forehead, and it'll bring everything else to the forefront. Some people contour their nose to make it skinnier. Don't contour my nose. And now, probably like the most critical part. After you do your blush and your highlight, you will set with a setting spray. Okay? I'm going to do my blush and highlight really quickly off camera, and I'll be right back. So my blush and highlight are now on. This part here, and then your blush can be a cream. It can be, I recommend a powder if you put all those powders on. I recommend a powder blush, but cream, your highlight, whatever you want, liquid, whatever you want. They can go over top. It's okay. But once you have that on, your flawless, your flawless, full coverage face is not yet complete. The reason why I recommend a setting spray is because we put on, let's go from color corrector or concealer to powder to foundation to concealer, highlight again, to under eye powder, to all over powder, and then blush, highlight. You could have theoretically put on 7 to 8 different products just now layered on your face. And in my mind, they're still sitting as layers. We want them to melt into one seamless layer. And that's where setting spray comes in. You guys know my favorites at this point, but you find one that what's it going to do is going to melt these layers together so it doesn't look cakey or powdery on my skin right now. Because of the products that I use. But if you do get that look, like that dry, maybe cakey, powdery look because of all that you put on your face, a setting spray will bring the life back to your face, but it won't add any shine to it once it dries, of course. It'll stay matte. They have matte setting sprays. It'll stay matte, but it'll just make everything look cohesive. Now, a setting spray is different from a finishing spray. I actually spray both on my face. So I'll do the setting spray first. You can overdo it. And you might be able just to see the difference now, just as it's drying down. It's going to dry down. It's going to stay a matte face. And then you would add a finishing spray to keep everything stuck. And there you go. That is a flawless, full coverage base for oily skin. It seemed like a lot, but you guys, I've been doing it for years, and it's just, I don't know. This is for extremely oily skin. Extremely oily. So, that's what I recommend. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about any of the techniques used in this video, feel free to leave them down below. I love you all, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye!